Warning: watching this video may turn you into a point-and-click demon. If you wish to keep being mid as hell, please click off the video now. Widely regarded as the best anchor weapon in the game, dominating the meta for years on end despite being toned back several times, the Sniper Rifle is a popular and extremely strong weapon in Splatoon 3, both casually and competitively. However, many players may feel lost trying to learn this weapon. The weapon can feel quirky at first, and can be frustrating to get the hang of. In the Ultimate Pencil Guide, we will break down this weapon to its core, from in-game data values to playstyle and movement tips. Hey, my name is Westy. I've been playing Splatoon 3 competitively for over 2 years now. I've been a Charger main since launch, and I've been playing Pencil in a team setting since it got buffed. I have since 7-starred the weapon, and have amassed over 1,000 wins on it. I'm currently sitting at a peak of 2688 XP in the Takaroka division, and with the start of the new season I'm looking to break into the 2700 threshold, and eventually hit 3K.
Hey, I'm Shiny, a high to top level competitive player and coach. I've been playing Splatoon competitively for almost 8 years now, as well as coaching professionally for 3. I'm also a North American League top 8 finalist, and I too have fallen in love with the Charger class of weapons as a whole. I've been playing them since my debut in comp, and even recently I've managed to amass the 10-star badge on the Sniper Rifle 5H, along with the 5-star badge on the Sniper Rifle 5B, sitting pretty at a 2950 Takaroka X power thanks to them. I can say with confidence that the Sniper Rifle is by far and away my favorite weapon, and I know everything there is to know about it.
Yeah, long story short, you're in good hands. Now, without further ado, grab your notebook and keep that yellow tool handy, because this is the Ultimate Pencil Guide. The ZR button must be held for 1.2 seconds before being able to fire shots. The Sniper Rifle is unique from the rest of the game's chargers in the sense that it can hold 5 charges in a single mag as opposed to 1. Each release of the ZR button will fire one of these charges until the mag is depleted. Each fully charged shot does 68 damage at the weapon's max range, and each uncharged shot does between 40 and 67.9 damage depending on charge time, and gains range the longer it is charged. It is important to note that a max damage uncharged shot reaches nowhere close to the range of a fully charged shot. The Sniper Rifle cannot store any charges while in squid form. Before we talk about gear, keep in mind that gear is always a matter of personal preference, and the build you choose will not make or break your actual gameplay. However, choosing the right build can enable your ability to make plays. There are 2 main gear builds that enable Sniper Rifle the most. Both of these include a main of LDE and special charge up. LDE is honestly just a broken ability in general, as it grants up to 18 ability points of Ink Saver main, Ink Saver sub, and Ink Recovery up. The amount of ability points the ability grants you depends on either the amount of time left in a game of Turf War, or the amount of points scored on you in any of the ranked modes. Special charge up lowers your points for special, which is important since the weapon's effectiveness heavily revolves around how much tactical it can output. Build 1 makes use of special power up, and this increases the duration that the cooler effect lasts for each player that picks it up. Build 2 makes use of stealth jump instead, and this ability is mainly for players who want to move around the map more and enables a more aggressive playstyle. Sub-abilities are mostly preference, but can make all the difference over the course of a game. Note that any of the abilities we've already talked about can be stacked with their mains if desired. First off is QSJ, or Quick Super Jump. Most weapons in the game benefit from 1 to 2 subs of QSJ, because it saves you a whole half second, or 15 frames, of total super jump time, enabling you to leave the ground earlier and get out of dangerous situations with much more success. Next is Ink Saver main. Running 1 sub will allow Pencil to get basically 3 full mags on a full ink tank without LDE active. There's legit no reason not to do this, so please just put it on your builds. Smile. Last are 2 abilities that I personally find useful as utility subs: Ink Recovery Up and Special Saver. Ink Recovery Up allows the weapon to have less downtime in between mags, and Special Saver allows the weapon to charge cooler a little quicker in situations where it dies without cooler effects. I'm gonna go a bit in depth for this section because I firmly believe that fine-tuning your sensitivity is very important when doing well with any charger and can give you a massive boost in your gameplay and overall confidence during games. It should go without saying that you should be using motion controls on every weapon, but especially chargers more so than any other class. Your choice of sensitivity is ultimately up to personal preference. If you've been playing on one sensitivity for a long time, switching to a much higher sense or lower sense might do you more harm than good. There are many ways you can go about finding your sensitivity that works for you, but I would recommend starting at your current settings or going to 0-0 and fine-tuning your sensitivity based on what you observe in your replays. If you notice you are shooting in front of enemies, lower your motion controls. If you are overturning your camera when looking around, lower your stick controls. If you are having trouble with small adjustments, tweak your motion controls a bit. Right now I use -1.5 motion and 0 sticks. Lower sensitivity is objectively better for chargers, but whatever allows your aim and movement to be the most consistent is what you should pick. Sniper Rifle has a plethora of strengths that can be abused once fully understood. The weapon's most obvious strength is its paint output. Having 5 shots allows it to paint large portions of the map at once. Paint control is a vital part of winning any game of Splatoon, regardless of mode, and the more control your team has, the easier it is for you and your teammates to move around the map and create advantageous situations. Frontlines benefit from this by being able to quickly move forward in the ink trails created by the main. Since the main weapon does 68 damage, it can combo for a one-shot with many other weapons in the game, such as 52 gal, several buckets, and Stamper, just to name a few. Sniper Rifle is tied for the 3rd largest range main weapon in the game, granting it many favorable matchups and maps against weapons that do not have the tools to contest it. Additionally, Sniper Rifle and Bamboo benefit from having a slightly larger shot hitbox than the other chargers, making it a little easier to deal damage to opponents and objects. Sniper Rifle is one of the 2 chargers in the game that does not deal 100 or more damage on a full charge, meaning more mechanical ability is required by the user to hit 2 shots rather than just 1. It has the 2nd slowest charge time of the chargers, right behind E-Leader, which means poor positioning is more likely to be punished. The weapon has poor object damage, which makes dealing with Crab Tank, Splash Wall, Booyah Bomb, and Big Bubbler quite challenging. This can be mostly alleviated by being more mindful of when and where to challenge HP specials and noticing when a teammate needs help shredding. The weapon is also much more difficult to play in a solo environment because many of its strengths can only be fully utilized in a coordinated environment, or when paired with weapons that are able to make the most of cooler effects. Also, due to the nature of solo queue, small mistakes in positioning are more likely to be punished, since you have no means of requesting backup when things go wrong, requiring the user to be more self-sufficient. Like any backline, Sniper Rifle benefits the most from taking high ground whenever possible. It allows you to paint more of the map at once, gives you the most information possible, and makes it difficult or even impossible for enemies to hit you. In a similar way that you give yourself the most amount of information as possible, you also want to limit how much info the opponent has on you. This is why all weapons in this game benefit from playing around cover to some extent. For a roller player, this might look like sitting still in a pool of ink where the enemy cannot see them directly. For chargers, playing around cover allows you to take less damage overall, as well as hide your reticle from opponents so that they have a harder time reacting to your shots. Being able to effectively play around cover is undoubtedly the most important thing to remember when it comes to positioning, and the best players will take the time to master it by playing on a variety of maps and learning the best power positions available on each one. An important note here is that all shooter type weapons are fixed to the right hand side of the player, so peeking the right side of a terrain will always be safer than the left. However, both should be utilized as necessary. It is very important that you are never the frontmost player during a game. Always have at least one teammate in front of you at all times. As a backline, you are the backbone of the team, and you need to be a reliable super jump spot in the event that one or more of your teammates die. This means that you need to be extra aware when you are at a disadvantage, and notice when you need to jump out or retreat to allow your team to regroup. Also, in modes such as TC and Rainmaker, you should be the player grabbing the objective. This is due to the slower movement speed of backlines. Since the Rainmaker has a set movement speed for all players holding it, regardless of weapon weight, it is less punishing for you to grab the Rainmaker as opposed to a lightweight weapon such as Splattershot. In TC, your teammates will be inclined to push in front of the tower, leaving you in a perfect position to provide crossfire from behind their push. I want to take a moment to talk about off angles. Off angles refer to positions where you are outside of the opponent's immediate view, usually somewhat far to the left or right side of the map. Off angles can be a powerful tool, especially in solo queue, where it is more difficult to trap players throughout a game. Off angles allow you to continue applying pressure to enemies without standing in an obvious position where enemies can easily approach. This often works for two reasons. 1. While these angles are generally worse for Snipe Rider to play in, sometimes they can help extend the range in which you can apply pressure from, allowing you to take and win more fights than usual. 2. These positions can often catch opponents off guard, since they are inclined to look in a position where you are encouraged to stand. However, it is equally important to keep in mind that good players will catch on to these positions quickly, and dying in one of these positions can be detrimental. Your overall positioning should be fluid, and you need to be willing to move back and forth from powerful angles in order to keep your opponents on their toes. In this next section, I'm going to talk about some mode-specific advice that is more geared towards competitive play, where you have extra layers of strategy that can be implemented into your games. This should not be viewed as a rigid set of rules for each mode, but rather some general guidelines to help you make slight adjustments in between modes. I want to take a moment to talk about tower control specifically, since I think this ties well not only into Penn's ideal strategy, but also for just general game sense. There are a few TC maps in this game where the tower path often constricts the effectiveness of Penn's gameplay. Let's head over to Haggle TC so I can show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so here we are on Haggle TC, and I just want to take a minute to get the tower to the first checkpoint so I can demonstrate this point. So notice as we approach this first checkpoint here that the sight lines that I get from standing in this position are kind of bad. Hitting people from up here is not impossible, but it's definitely not ideal. Even if it was like up here, it would be much better, but the checkpoint goes down a little bit. So like getting an angle here is not the easiest thing to do. If I'm standing on this block, perfectly fine. Unfortunately, I don't get checkpoint when I'm standing here, so that makes this kind of a vulnerable position for me. Any mid-range gun can pretty much just like beam me from that spot. And just to show this a little bit better, let me jump back to my spawn here and go to that position on my side, and it's even more clear that, oh yeah, this is not a great spot for really any weapon to be in, but especially a long-range gun like Penn. You don't really want to be standing there ever. And the solution to this is, have a teammate put a bubble on the tower, or, have someone use a Zuka, or a Stamp, or a Whale, or just, anything to displace enemies from this position. And that will make it much easier for you to, get your team through that checkpoint and, go on to win the game. In Rainmaker, sometimes it's better to have your support grab the rain over you, especially if you have a range advantage against the enemy, or are playing on a really strong pen map like Crab Lake or Museum. If you must grab the fish, there should be a designated anchor to the push to help with repopping the shield or give jumps if the fronts go down. A general rule of thumb for Rainmaker is that you want to focus on not dying while the enemy is holding the Rainmaker, since this is when the opportunity for scoring points increases. Clam Blitz. Holding the power clam can give you passive special charge, depending on the state of the game, but also it puts a massive target on your back that the entire lobby can see. Despite this being often beneficial for you to hold the power clam during neutral, since the positions you generally stand in will be generally easy for opponents to see anyway, being marked isn't a huge deal, but rather something you just need to keep in mind, as if the game doesn't make it blaringly obvious. Once you break out of neutral, it may be safer for you to throw the football to a teammate better suited to run it up to the basket and score, so that you can continue anchoring without giving up a power position. In a competitive environment where you can often make use of voice chat, once you break the basket, it should be identified before the game whether you are the one to hold the offensive position while you apply pressure on the enemy base, or if you are the one leaving the basket to gather clams around the map and continue scoring. On splat zones, Opening cooler is generally dependent on team preference, but generally it's best to fight on opening and then get cooler closer to 4 minutes 30 remaining, rather than having a cooler on the floor by 4:45 and missing the first fight of the game. On zones, you generally want to play like normal until you have a cooler active. Then, you can play for more picks until the enemies are about to stage a push. Turf War. While Turf War is generally considered the casual mode of this game, it was recently featured as a playable mode in the recent NA League, along with the other ranked modes, so I'll include it. The strategy for Turf remains the same as zones, except you want to make sure you have a cooler on the ground with roughly 45 seconds remaining on the clock. This allows your team to fight more, and in turn, flip more of the map during the most important part of the match, where fights become more impactful and can snowball for the rest of the match. In this next section, we'll be going over every single mechanic that me and Shiny believe are crucial to playing PEN as optimally as possible. Learning and applying these mechanics to your own gameplay will guarantee your improvement as a PEN player. When leaving your spawn, throwing your sprinkler on an unpainted area is a good habit to build, as you will effectively give yourself a passive special charge for the 10 seconds that the sprinkler is in its full painting mode. This is especially useful at the beginning of the game when there is no paint on the map. When moving up to take space after a successful retake, throw sprinklers somewhere with enemy paint, especially if it's a common spot for movement, such as bottom left on Mako Mart. Not only does this make it harder for shark weapons to retake, but it helps you spend less time painting the floor and more time fighting with your team. Throwing sprinkler on the walls and ground leaves a patch of ink underneath the spot it was thrown. This tech allows sprinkler to be used as a movement tool, similarly to burst bomb. Just don't try to throw it at the opponents as a means of dealing damage. When jumping back to spawn or taking close range fights, it can also serve as a bit of a shield. However, this is a last resort option and should only be done in very desperate scenarios. If you want to paint an area such as a splat zone, but don't want to peek out from cover, you can tilt your camera up over the terrain to continue painting the floor. Tilting your camera very high will also give your shots a slightly thicker paint trail, which can be useful for capping the zone on certain splat zones maps. However, be careful when doing this, since you won't be able to see much on your screen while your camera is pointed that far up. You do not always need a full charge. If you notice an opponent is already weak and you are close enough, you can tap them with a partial charge for a quick pick. While this is pretty situational, they can be applicable more often than you would think, since players will often try to rush you down when the opportunity presents itself. In a scenario like this, you probably won't have time to get a full charge, so you will have to resort to quick repositioning and a few partial charges to secure the kill. This one definitely takes a lot of practice, but certainly pays off in the long run, and in my experience gives you quite the adrenaline rush. An easy way to practice this is shooting the training dummies in the lobby with partials to see how much damage each shot does, as well as get a better feel for how far each partial shot travels. While I wouldn't recommend regularly going for this play in games, it can be very useful when things go wrong quickly, and I think it is an underrated skill that has saved me plenty of times over the years. Cooler placement is important for every cooler weapon, as a well-placed cooler will allow your team to maximize its effects over the course of a game. It is important that you throw your cooler in a position that is safe, does not force too much sacrifices in positioning, and is somewhere that your team wants to move towards. Don't just mindlessly place it in front of you, as your teammates will often be forced to give up the space that they earned in order to grab it. This comes with practice, but generally good positioning will make this easier to achieve. Don't get locked into one specific task. This is often referred to as getting tunnel visioned or tunneling. It is very easy to get tunnel visioned into one aspect of the game, such as only focusing paint or only focusing kills. With any weapon, it is crucial to be constantly switching modes depending on what the situation calls for. Do not be afraid to jump out, especially if you have cooler charged and find yourself in an unfavorable scenario. Jumping back to spawn is usually pretty good, since it saves you a few seconds of respawn time and prevents you from losing special points. If you have cooler effects, it becomes an even safer choice, since you get a faster jump, and if you don't get it off in time, you have QR anyway, so you can begin charging another cooler instantly. Contrary to the previous point, if you have time to back up safely, you should always do so. While jumping to spawn is necessary when enemy pressure is too high, jumping out too early limits potential opportunities for value. When retreating, don't blindly give up space. Instead, be on the lookout for players overextending. Who knows, you may just earn yourself a free pick or two and create an advantage. Try to aim your crosshair at the edges of stage geometry. This allows you to exploit your larger hitbox and catch opponents off guard. Conversely, show your laser when you want to apply more pressure on a specific angle or prevent enemies from taking space. Try to mix up your shot rhythm. You don't always have to fire all 5 shots at once. When looking for picks, it's often better to shoot at varying intervals, as it allows you to take in more information and track opponents' movement better, leading to more picks and value for your team. I had a lot of ideas for this video, and I'm glad I was able to bring them all to life. Pencil is a very unique weapon that has many levels of depth that are very difficult to showcase effectively, and with a severe lack of content talking about this weapon at a high level, I decided, you know what, I think I'm good enough to take on the challenge. I want to give a special shout out to Shiny for helping me learn more about Pencil and for sharing their many years of expertise with me to help make this video possible. I also want to thank all my friends in the Blitz Discord server for being such a supportive group of friends and encouraging me to finally finish this project. You guys are all awesome and help make this community the welcoming place that it is. I really hope you all enjoyed this video as much as I did creating it. Learning to edit is hard, and I know I have plenty more to improve, so if you enjoyed the video, or if you have any questions for me personally, be sure to leave a comment and let me know. My DMs on Discord are always open. But anyways, that's all from me. See ya! An extremely strong weapon in Splatoon 3 was cat. Fuck. The amount of ability points the special. Fuck, dude, I'm gonna Fuck! I was so close, man. Damn it. I'm gonna go a bit in depth for this section. Fuck. I'm gonna go a bit in depth for this section. I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose it. Quick repositioning and a few partial charges to secure the kill. This one is definitely an acquired taste, but certainly. Why the fuck did I say taste? On zones, you often want to play like normal until you have a cooler active. Why did I fucking pause? Cooler active. Sniper Rider is tied for the 3rd largest main. Fuck. Not the 3rd. It's not the 3rd largest main weapon, bro. It's just not. That's not factual information. On splat zones. Oh, my fucking voice. Fuck. On zones, you generally want to play like normal until you have a cooler active. Once you have a cooler active and you grab a drink. Why did I say those like 2 separate events? They're the same fucking event. This can be mostly alleviated by being more mindful of when and where to challenge HP specials. I don't know why I changed the tone of my voice, like for no reason. Like in Rainmaker, sometimes it's better to have your support grab the Rainmaker over you, especially if you have a range advantage against the enemy, or on really strong pen maps like Crab-like or Museum. If you must grab the fish, there should be a designated anchor to push to help with repop. What? Who the fuck wrote this? It was fucking me, wasn't it?